Hello. Well, here we are again, and I promised you a couple of videos ago that I would keep you updated on my health journey because I had a reoccurrence, apparently. At least that's what the labs show. And so I've been taking some alternative medications that are not widely accepted, but I don't want to do chemo and radiation. I did that once before, and I don't believe that that is appropriate for me. It feels like dying, and enough said about that. So there has to be a better way, and I have been doing it. I have been feeling great and strong and lots of energy and enjoying life. So, at the end of the month, I went in for new labs. That would be the 3-month mark after the first labs. So that would show if anything had changed for the better or the worse. And a day later, I got the results. It had changed for the worse. Quite a bit worse. Quite shockingly worse. And my heart caught in my throat for a moment. But it wasn't what I would call fear. It was shock. Because that morning before I went for my labs, I had talked to Father God, and I said, so is this a good day to go take the labs? I think I'm. As I waited calmly, patiently, not anxiously, I felt peace. Not only peace, but a joy. Very significant joy. So I went and got the labs and got the result a day later. They were not good. The numbers had climbed very significantly. And I was shocked. I honestly said a couple of very not nice words because I thought, what is this? And immediately I felt like, what is this? This is something that's not right. And it felt like some kind of attack. Now, I think I may have talked about my ideas about demons and evil and things like that. And my thinking along these lines is that this isn't an entity somewhere just that hates me and decided to come after me. Although that crossed my mind because that's the way I was raised, to believe that Satan is this entity who goes around attacking people. Sometimes for no good reason, sometimes because they're trying to live really good lives. And I thought, okay, is this true? And I toiled over that decision for another day or two, talking to Father, asking him, is this what's going on? I talked to a good old friend of mine, and as I did, I said, there isn't any fear in me, but I'll tell you what is in me is anger. And I talked that through. What anger? It's very strong anger. It's the kind of anger that just It surprised me when I was telling friends about it. It bubbled up inside of me, and I was becoming very passionate and very animated as I talked about my anger. And it was lashing out toward the medical profession specifically. I realized that being angry towards the medical profession wasn't geared towards people in particular, not nurses or doctors or orderlies or anybody else. Everyone I've ever met in a medical situation was very nice, very helpful, very caring. But there is a machine, and I have talked about that. And that's who I'm angry at, is this machine. And it's creating protocols and rules and regulations that are not human. They're not geared towards humanity. They are cold and cruel and unfeeling, unempathetic, uncaring. And I believe people die because of them. And I would like to figure out another way. Maybe not me personally, but somebody needs to figure out a better way. It seems to me that everything starts with the best of intentions. We have wonderful, inspired ideas, and then we put them together, and we have a small group. And it doesn't matter if it's religious or political or medical, or it doesn't matter what area of society it is in. It starts off great. And the people involved are the most humble and caring people there could be, with brilliant ideas. But as it grows, when it grows, somewhere along the way, we lose the humanity in what we create. And there has to be a solution in that. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to tell you that I did get a bad result on my lab. And I did realize that there was anger inside of me. And that anger needed to be confronted and resolved. So I realized that I can't be angry at just random evil everywhere around me in the machine that shows itself in everything that we create. Being angry, it caused my mind to go to Adam and Eve. After they left the garden, I thought, were they angry because they had paradise and now paradise was gone? Were they angry at evil because ultimately it was their decision, but they were manipulated? In a lot of ways, there was manipulation going on. If Adam and Eve were angry, I haven't read about it. Maybe it is in some of the other books, possibly some of the Dead Sea Scrolls or the books from the Nag Hammadi. Maybe it's in the Book of Enoch. Maybe it's somewhere that I haven't read yet. And that's all good and fine. But my point is, there's plenty of other stories, other places in the Bible where people suffer from the hands of evil things that happen. Then as I brainstormed, I realized, and I said to my friend, we get mad sometimes when there is bad weather. She lives in the Midwest. I said, sometimes when a tornado is headed towards you, you get angry and you speak to it. And it actually works. You tell it, You will not touch what is mine. You will not touch my home. And it works. They often turn, they go in a different direction. And that's something I've also done in my life. It is a use of anger that is different. It's authority. When you know that God has given you something and it belongs to you, you have authority over it. And you can make that statement, this is mine, and I do not release it to you, to your hands, to this big cloud to roll in and destroy my house. Now, I tried doing some of that when the fires were raging last month, and we had to evacuate the house for 11 days. What worked was when I left the house the last time and I said, I looked at the fire and I said, this is my home. Don't touch it. You will not touch it. And it didn't. Now, I also said things in reference to my town, my area, and they did not necessarily have a lot of effect. I'm still working on that to understand how that works. What's the details of how that works? But the point is that I figured out that I have authority. This is my body. I have a job, a mission in this life to take care of my girls and to live and do that job. And so I released my anger to say the words that this is my body. Cancer, you have no place here. You do not dictate when I die. So basically, back off and take a hike. This ain't happening. You're barking up the wrong tree, and I'm telling you no, and you can come no further. I felt that. I felt that in my heart and soul. I felt great about it afterwards, strong. It was like I finally stood up and declared my boundaries, and it was good. Then a day or two later, I also made phone calls. I called my doctor, my naturopath, and told her what was going on, made an appointment to go and see her within a couple of days. And I also made an appointment for a CAT scan of chest, abdomen, and pelvic areas to locate what this blood test says is a return of some sort of tumor. I'm not agreeing with it, but that's what the test is supposed to reveal. Anyway, so I had those appointments and I went to see my naturopath and talk to her. And one thing that we got out of the way immediately was that I wasn't taking enough of my controversial protocol. She told me how many milligrams, and 3 is what she said. And when we figured out what I was taking, it was only 1. So I know that I need to up my game on that. But she also added a couple of therapies that were very, very wonderful to me. There was, now I need to look at this. There was a PEMF therapy, which is electromagnetic pulse. And I sat in a chair in a very dim room while this happened to my body, this electromagnetic pulse, went through specifically my back into my body for about 30 minutes. It was extremely soothing. It felt like a massage to me. And when I was finished with that, I was, oh, wow, very, very relaxed and felt very good. She also gave me an IV therapy, which had high doses of vitamin C, vitamin Bs. I don't know what all was in it, honestly. And I'm going to do a little research on that in the following days when I think of it. And then there was an oxygen therapy that she did. It involved a condenser with a cannula in my nose and going through some castor oil. I'm not sure exactly what that does. Anyway, when I left 2 hours later, I felt very good. Of course, I felt good when I went, but I felt even better. I felt encouraged. I said to her, so these are protocols and therapies, and we're going to pursue this course. Now, tell me, are we going to beat this? I wanted to know where her head and her heart were. And she immediately responded, oh, yes, absolutely, no problem. And her confidence was very encouraging, to say the least. Then I came home and was online checking a few things, catching up on messages and notes, and had been with someone in the store who'd gotten an alert on the Watch Duty app, which is something I became very familiar with during the fires. It tracks them and notifies you when there are updates so that you can see what new thing is happening with fighting the fires. And that alerted me to check because I have a nephew who has a cabin not far from me, and it was still in evacuation area. He has not been able to get into his cabin. Since I live so close, I told him I would keep track. And when they released the evacuation status, I would drive over. I have a key to the cabin, and I would check everything out and make sure it's all good. And it was. His electricity hadn't even been turned off, so his food in the freezer was fine. Everything was fine. The windows are boarded up. They're all fine. Bears have come down out of the mountains because of the fires, and some people have worried about the damage. Well, he was concerned. They live in Texas, so he hasn't been nearby to go and check. There was no signs of damage anywhere on the property. Everything was exactly the way that they left it. So that was good. I sent them pictures and I came home. And I said to my daughter, this has been a very good day. This has been a very good day. We have so much to be thankful for and grateful for. All of these challenges have arisen, and we have walked through them. Some people have lost their homes, and yet there seems to be an attitude of encouragement in the area of that they are either going to rebuild or that in the end they've decided, no, they're going to move on and do something different. Whichever way it goes, it's a new adventure. And it's a good day. This is a good day. I know what direction I'm going. I'm taking my protocol more appropriately now and taking therapies that are in the least very, very relaxing, wonderful, wonderful. And I'm very content and happy with how things are going. I am encouraged for the future. I am looking forward to each day and what new comes. I'm looking for more blessings too, because with each thing that arises, it produces a lesson and a blessing. That's a term I coined for my nephew. Let's have another blessing, another lesson, and another blessing. And that I wanted to share with you all. So thank you for coming. I hope you've enjoyed this little chat, and I hope you'll return next week. Please leave a like and subscribe, and be full of joy. Until next time, bye-bye.